Alex O'Connor
Yep.
discussion, reflections. I think it went well. I think he's super smart.
Super smart.
I think he is definitely has an above average IQ.
Super.
I think he's also very experienced. And I think that I genuinely enjoyed him. He's very likable.
Super.
He's very likable, very pleasant to talk to. I still stand on, hey, I think it's very nitpicky to the West thing. Like it's kind of a hill I'm willing to die on. Like I think West was technically right. And I don't think I'm going to back down from that. You know,
I think you landed at a good spot when you went from, it was
99% versus.
No. You used the wording, and I'm going to get this wrong. I already know it. But it was, he was technically wrong, but essentially right.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It's technically wrong, essentially right. I'm willing down that hill.
And I felt like that was a good concession, which was like, like that is what his problem was.
Maybe that's what he wanted. That's fine.
And that's but that's also what your point was.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, it was technically wrong.
Yep.
But right.
Yeah. Whenever you're talking to someone that is as smart as him, he just has so many things that he can like pull from. And so it's difficult to then go and like pull up this manuscript of this thing. And that's why I was like really trying to keep it to the bare bones and the big ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing every rabbit trail and like the overflows of the worldview, the implications of what's being said versus what's technically not stated. So anyway, I had a really, 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 really good conversation with him. I would like to do it in person. The delay is hard.
Oh, that's the worst.
A lot of people are like, you're cutting him off. It's like, look, when you're talking to someone, one, there's a delay, so you're trying to find a natural rhythm to jump into the conversation. Two, we're both long-winded, so it's difficult to have a coherent conversation without some degree of chiming in with the delay. I wish you guys would give more grace to that.
I think doing podcasts through just virtual allows space for the person speaking to go extra long. Yes. Like there's not that physical presence in the room saying, wrap up what you're saying. So Alex is going long, you're going long. And that's why you guys both remember, you guys both go, but anyways, go ahead. What were you gonna say? Like there's you gotta wrap yourself up.
There's a delay there. And when you're sitting there talking with somebody, you can tell when someone's nodding along and they're ready to chime in. So that's difficult. And that's like, Myth Vision wants to come and do the pod at some point. Like there's certain people that like in person only.
Yes.
Because
it could get too hostile.
It could get too hostile. It could get devolved. And even if you're talking in person and you're revving up and I'm being like funny and theatrical, it comes off aggressive versus like if me and you in the room and I'm revving up, like I'm not actually being aggressive, right? So some of that can get lost in translation. So anyway, I would love to talk to Alex in person. I'm down to have these conversations in person. And there's a pretty high profile atheist that's about to come on the channel. So I thought it was great. I think Alex is super smart. The one part that really shocked me, and I said this to him in the stream, and I said this to him privately, is he's only 25. And harnessing the amount of, and I'm going to use this word intentionally, power at 25, despite how smart he is, and this is not me trying to little bro him. I just remember when I was at 25, I remember where I was at 30, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And just how not all the way formulated your worldview is, and the not understanding the full impact and the ripple effect of your worldview. And I have a feeling, and I said this to him privately, I really believe this, that I think Alex O'Connor at 35, on the other side of God willing being married and having kids, if that's what he desires, is going to be a different Alex O'Connor than at 25.
Yeah.
And that's not like a little bro tactic. But I do think that there's a degree of certainty in the way you're thinking about the world and this like need to know all the minutia. And it's just a tricky way to navigate because you don't know what you don't know from a life experience. Again, technically he's way smarter than I am.
Super.
He's Oxford educated, but there's certain tacit aspects of life and experience that when you're on the other side, like having your first kid. Very difficult to have your first kid and come to the conclusions of a materialist worldview. I have a massive update for you. I'm sure by this point, you've heard about the Blessed God Summit happening March 27th, 28th, 29th here in beautiful Carlsbad, California. But we've heard your requests. We've conceded to your demand. There are virtual tickets that are now available for the Blessed God Summit so you can access it from anywhere in the world, as well as access to the replays. And for those of you guys that are looking for something extra, we're also offering a virtual ticket and an exclusive Bless God Summit merch bundle. There's some amazing art and some exclusive pieces done by our friend Josh Nadeau from Sword and Pencil that you have to check out. So join us online for the virtual event and experience some sessions from my favorite podcasters, pastors, and performers. We have a stacked lineup. I'm talking about Preston Perry, Dr. Sean McDowell, Inspiring Philosophy. What do you mean? Lila Rose, Alan Parr, and his wife Jen Parr. We even have Nate Sala from Wise Disciple, Gavin Ortland, David Wood, Avery from God Logic Apologetics. And on the pastoral side, we have my friend Daniel Golding, Pastor Ed Newton from CBC in San Antonio, and my personal pastor from Rhythm Church, Pastor Jeff Moores and his wife Erin Moores. You won't want to miss out from amazing performances from America's Got Talent winner Dustin Savella, Billboard charting hip-hop artist John Keith and Miles Minnick, and as seen on Jordan Peterson's We Who Wrestle with God tour, Dirt Poor Robbins. And we're still finalizing a few more speakers. So head over to blessgod.shop, get your virtual ticket now, and you can get yourself a bundle with some of the exclusive merch as well. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.
Yes.
To watch the birth process and think, and again, I think that's the other side. And I'm believing that he lives a long and prosperous life, and I'm believing that I'm praying that he comes back around to these conversations as he just matures and grows older and experiences life more. Because, and I said this to him privately, the biggest influx of people we're seeing in our local church, I can't say this is like with any form of data, are young married couples in their 30s or early 30s who have never been Christian. They didn't grow up Christian. There's no Christian. There's no my grandma's been praying for me. Yeah. My auntie's like, no one's Christian. And these are the folks that we're seeing come to faith, especially post-pandemic. These are the folks we're seeing come to church, and they have no foundation. Alex would even be ahead of them because he at least understands like the Christian apologetics and can say them back pretty easily.
Yeah.
So that is what I would be curious about is like, who is Alex at 35? And how certain is he of this? And how nitpicky is he on this sort of things, right? Yeah. That's the part.
I think the biggest detriment is what you nailed on is the life experience bit. As I'm 26, and I think if you're really locked in on something you're super passionate about for a long period of time, you need like space to like, I think, fully understand and digest kind of your personal experiences. So like I freelanced my entire, like since high school. I freelanced, I worked for myself. This was my first job I got in 2021, a couple years after I was married. In that process, like there's enough life change there where now on the other side of it, I was like, oh, I knew nothing about running a business. But instead, back when I was running the business, if I just kept going, I'd be like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm learning all this stuff. All that to say, I think when he's like really locked in since he was pre-teens, right, on this thing, that it becomes the sole focus and it becomes the sole thing you do every single day, that it takes away from life experience or even just time to reflect. Like
hopefully not though.
No one's not needed Alex O'Connor. He's always been around to be the atheist debunking guy.
He's the final boss.
Exactly. Did we just win? Did we just beat the game?
We made it.
We made it to the final level. At least.
We made it to the final level.
But my point being,
hey Alex, that is a compliment.
100%. That
is a compliment. It's like Alex and Bart Ehrman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
because Richard Dawkins isn't really good in these conversations, but it's like Alex and Bart Ehrman, final boss of this whole thing. And
I think when you have time away to have something else be your sole focus, you can still be a strong, raging atheist.
I don't think he's just strong raging atheist. I think totally. He's getting older and he's evolving and he's trying to figure it out. And this rubbed him the wrong way. And
I was curious if there's a few questions I had for him, but we're going so long. I'm curious if he felt the same way, if there was any like tension of being like an atheist for your job, the same way that some like Christians or the pastors are pastors for the job and they have a level they have to maintain or.
Yeah, I will say, and I was also concerned that he said he read comments.
Yeah.
Because we have fairly good boundaries. Like we have like Chris will look at comments and peek around, and I'll look at comments, and we look at comments when the video first drops, and we really obviously really pay attention to our chats, our live chats here. But that was the part where I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's great for your mental health. Like you're reading, it sounds like he's really in the weeds and reading comments. And like once a video goes out, day 2, I don't look at comments anymore because then it's just gone. It's you're opening up to everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the part where I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is great for his mental health.
I don't think it's great for the the ability to approach conversations like this last one, although he still does them very great. You can tell there's like moments where he slips and goes, well, then why is everyone jumping in my comments? And like I think that's when he came for Wes Huff's credentials, only because there was comments in his comments thing roasting his credentials or Kip's credentials. I mean, so I'm like, I was like, just don't even engage in that because we're not saying whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're coming for someone that actually is credentialed.
Yeah. Yeah, and Wes is really credentialed. Wes is a PhD student. Wes has gone through a very rigorous process. I don't even think he's going to like an evangelical university for his PhD. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that.
He's not wearing a Jansport backpack walking around SDSU. Like it's not the same. It's not
so
like
shout out to Sammy. He said my only argument is that Christians should be precise when they speak about scripture, and I do think it's a problem to have Joe believe something that isn't true. Well, again, I'm not sure if you saw that part in the conversation. Wes went and cleaned it up with Joe, and Joe was like, didn't care.
Yeah, he's like, it doesn't matter to me. 90%, 92% is still a miracle.
Yeah, which again, not to split hairs. Is it 93%? Is it 95%? Is it 99%? We're really, to me, if a cup is 99% full or 95% full, it's full.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is where again we can get into precise language and all these sorts of things. But it's neither here nor there. I enjoyed Alex greatly. I hope he's a good sport about it. I think maybe what made us stand out is that we kind of matched some of that new atheist energy that he used to have back in the day in terms of just being willing to have fun and Russ. And listen, in terms of credentials, we don't got no credentials. We're not pulling anybody's credential card. We're just we're literally YouTubers. Like that's what we do. That's what Zach's done. Well, that's what I've done. Like we're just guys. Yeah. This is entertainment at the end of the day.
You said in yesterday's video, I think you're like, I'm just trying to curate the conversation and the minds.
I've never called myself an apologist.
Yeah. And you like to have the more personal conversation. So you shared a bit of your story. You asked him about what would it take to get him all the way there. What's really holding him back? I think that's a side that's really interesting because people only see Alex O'Connor in a certain format, and so we're just like the guys. We're kind of we can't be the mouthpiece for Wes Huff because we're not credentialed like Wes Huff. You know, even Gavin Orland's better off. Yeah, because he's got
and let me just say, I said this to Alex. Like Wes Huff is, I wouldn't play with Wes Huff. Like I wouldn't poke. I wouldn't poke because he is real, like actively in that world. Yeah. Right. And let's just say there are some people involved who also have some questionable. Yeah. Who also have some questionable credentials.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say Alex was super sharp, super cool guy. I tried to minimize how much I engaged because there's no way I'm keeping up. And so I was like, I'm not going to say anything that he could easily refute. I'm jokes and subjective takes is going to be my bit.
Yeah. Shout out to Rick Vaughn. I love this comment. He says, I don't have to be a professional singer to know when someone is out of tune. I know it's okay to call things out if you know it doesn't ring true. And I just knew that from just an instinctual level. And then and the verdict is still out. I know y'all think like these 2000 variants are like it's set and stuff.
Yeah.
I would tread very lightly and carefully. Skeptic friends, Myth Vision. All you got, like, tread very carefully with jumping out the window and saying this guy is an expert and this thing is settled. It like tread very carefully in that.
You don't want to be stuck being like,
yeah, because
let it rock out for a little bit.
Yeah, let it cook. I don't need 100% fidelity for my faith to remain true.
Hello.
I don't need. I'm not threatened if there's verses missing. It does nothing to my faith at all. Like literally at all. I don't hold to a wooden version of inerrancy. So for me, like this doesn't mean it, but if you're building your house on these things and blah blah, I would just tread very carefully in terms of some of the sources that are being used and some of the experts that have been presented. Just tread very carefully. And I said this to Alex privately as well. So anyway, shout out to Alex O'Connor. Great conversation. Can't wait to be with him in person. If you guys want to come and see him debate David Wood, February 15th in Newark, New Jersey, I'll be there. David Wood will be debating Alex O'Connor on if Jesus claims to be God in the New Testament. Inspiring Philosophy is debating. I think Andrew Wilson's debating. That's not an endorsement of Andrew Wilson, is debating. So if you're in the tri-state area, come hang out with us. Modern Day Debates is going to be there. So big shout out to him for putting that on. So I can't wait for that day. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.